How does one know they're required to provide ID if the cop doesn't tell them why they are required to provide it? I don't know if that's actually the question that Michael RS was asked, but let's run through it again. The police are not required to tell you what their reasonable suspicion or probable cause is. In fact, the police won't know for real if they have a reasonable suspicion or probable cause until a judge tells them that they did. And certainly the suspect will never believe that the police have a reasonable suspicion or probable cause for the arrest or detention. So trying to get them to understand why is pointless. And so how do you know when you have to give ID to a cop? Well, first thing you do is you want to go out armed with a little bit of knowledge ahead of time. If a cop is required, or if you're required to ID to a cop who has detained you on reasonable suspicion, you can assume that if you're detained, he has reasonable suspicion. And I say that because if you don't assume that, you may end up arrested and in jail for your trouble. Because the cop may or may not have it. And again, we won't know for sure until a court says that the cop had it. Eh? So if you are required to ID on detention, then you need to ID on detention. If you're required to ID on arrest, or actually any other time, because I don't particularly see a need to wait until booking. But if you're required to ID on arrest, as soon as you're arrested, go ahead and ID. You have nothing to gain by not IDing at that point. And again, you won't know if the cop had reasonable suspicion until a judge makes a ruling on it. And that's how you know. So the assumption from this question, it appears to be that people won't know they're required to provide ID if the cop doesn't tell them. But they know they're required to provide ID because the statute tells them, and because a man with a gun who's apparently willing to enforce it is telling them. You don't gain any, you already have your cause of action. As soon as he says you're detained, or as soon as he makes it apparent that you're detained and he demands your ID, you have a cause of action. If he's wrong, you can sue. Now, you won't win money. It'll be an expensive lawsuit and you'll just be proving a point, but you can prove a point if he didn't in fact have reasonable suspicion. If he did have reasonable suspicion, then you'll just be wasting money at that point in time. But there's a lot of things you don't know. Like when a cop arrests somebody, even if he has reasonable suspicion and probable cause and all that other fun stuff, we don't know if that person is going to be found guilty. We don't even know if they did it. We don't know anything. So there is still no requirement that the police tell you what their reasonable suspicion is or what their probable cause is. They can just use force to make you comply, and you gain nothing by not complying. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.